The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our AI in Action series, where leading minds in AI from across the world share their story, success, and advice. AI in Action cuts through the hype and explores the true impact of artificial intelligence in our world today.
You're listening to AI in Action. I'm your host, JP Valentine. Our guest today is Nelli Garton and Kelly Abbott. Eleanor is the CEO and Kelly is the CTO at Tablecloth.io. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Nelli, we will start with you first, please. I would love to get a quick background of your journey in tech, then moving over to yourself, Kelly, and then we'll come around to talking about the company. But Nelli, if I could start with you first, please. Tell us a little bit about your journey in tech.
Sure. So I am a more recent joiner of the tech movement. I come at this actually with a very heavy data and analytics background, but not as much kind of as an entrepreneur. I'm a former academic with a PhD in policy and management and was really seeing a lack of data being brought into decision-making around environmental, social, and governance factors for companies. And there was the whole impact investing movement. And Kelly and I got together and were talking about how we could make a difference in that area. And over a beer, he said, I want to make software out of your brain, which at that point was a little odd, and I agreed to it. So that is how I joined the tech world. And I would say it was about 5.5 years ago at this point that we started on this journey and continue to just be really excited about where we're going.
Well, that's a nice segue into you and Kelly getting connected and a bit of a tee up to the story behind Tablecloth. But before we jump into that, Kelly, as the person with the CTO title, I'm sure you've got some background and journey to share with us. So tell us a little bit about your overall background in tech, please.
Yeah, I've been a serial entrepreneur of the .com variety, probably 25 years now in this space. Basically just got up in the first .com boom back in the late 90s and never stopped learning. So I was a software developer originally and then took on more product roles as I grew, and then eventually started founding my own companies, funding them, selling them, joining teams that were doing great things on the internet. Built consumer software, SaaS software, desktop software, doesn't matter, basically whatever it is, I've had some hand in it in the past. Yeah, so when I met Nelli, I was pretty seasoned in my career and really wanted some more meaning behind the work that I was doing. And I just found that her knowledge and capacity for making change was really interesting and something worthwhile. Yeah, so when we had that beer, I said, I want to turn your brain into software. It was with the best possible intentions. It was about making positive change in the world.
I love that. Deciding to turn somebody's brain into software and technology is a good backstory to a business idea. So it leads nicely into Tablecloth. So Nelli, we'll hand it over to you. Tell us all about Tablecloth, who you are as a business, what you do, what the mission of the organization is, please.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great place to start because we are a very mission-oriented company. Tablecloth is a SaaS platform that is built really as an end-to-end solution for private equity and venture capital to be able to track and monitor and also manage towards improving the practices of their portfolio companies. So helping to support their portfolio companies to reduce their carbon footprint, to treat their employees well, and to create community and support the communities that those companies are engaged with. And so the way that we think about our work, we engage with the portfolio companies and the funds to both plan what data they want to collect. Then we move into an implementation phase where we work really closely with the portfolio companies to get the highest quality of data. We then do an analysis phase where we develop out dashboards to help them understand what's in this data. This is all pretty new for portfolio companies. Typically, they're used to looking at their financial data, but they don't necessarily look at what impacts they're having. So are they paying living wages? Do they have a gender wage gap? Are they recycling adequately? Those sorts of things. And so now we're providing them rigorous data that they can use to make decisions to actually do better the planet, the people that they employ, as well as the people they're serving.
Thank you for that. Very interesting mission indeed. And as somebody who's spoken to many of the portfolio companies, I know that one of the biggest challenges they have is real granular insight into what's happening across the various companies. It's a very complex problem to try and solve, which is why there's probably such a need for it. Kelly, talk to us about the technology behind all of this. Obviously, it's very analytics, data analysis driven problem that you're trying to solve, which requires a lot of engineering. Take us through the journey from concept to where you are today, how you've gone about getting it from idea to scaling a workable model.
I mean, AI has no small part in helping us get there. As a small company, as a bootstrap company, we've had to leverage tools off the shelf, and we came at Tablecloth in an era when these were getting much easier to use and a lot cheaper as well. So our main concern is data onboarding. We have a lot of companies that have just different capabilities of getting their data from their systems to ours, and it's not always practical or convenient to tap into APIs and really dig into their infrastructure in a clean way. So we have to have them generate reports and pass them to our system in a way that doesn't take hours or days or months to clean and get into our models. So big part of our engineering concern is that onboarding component. And then just on the back end, making sure that when we have the data, we're providing insights that give some good context to the owners and operators of these companies for what their state is. So doing things like benchmarking or talking about what industry standards or public standards might be when they're looking at, for example, wage parity or gender parity, or whether or not their energy efficiency is what it should be for a manufacturing company and things like that. So the platform the engineering challenge is pretty diverse. There's a full stack component where we're just trying to get people to use it and have it be intuitive and friendly and easy to get their data in, to the back end, which requires a lot of different modeling and constant updates to the model, and then displaying of this important information using BI. Just tons of components, really interesting work for a technologist to do, to appear to make simple for the end user. And that's where the real challenge is.
Nelli, I want to come back to you to see if you could share a recent story or something that particularly stands out from the portfolio companies who have started to use Tablecloth and some examples of the benefits that they've got from it. Is there any recent stories that you could share just to show how impactful the platform has been for some of the portfolio companies who are using it?
Sure, absolutely. I can think of a couple right off the top of my head. As Kelly mentioned, really wrangling all that data and contextualizing it, I think, is a critical piece of what we provide. There is a lot of confusion in the broader sphere right now about what to measure, what does it mean, how do I compare myself? So we really try to embed a lot of that context into the way that we visualize the data. For me, data without context is just noise. And so how do we get meaning out of this data that is turned into information and then hopefully moves entities into action? So a couple of examples I can think of. One is a fund that is manufacturing primarily in the upper Midwest here in the United States. They have taken on ESG with great gusto. They have really set some strong targets for all their portfolio companies, including last year trying to get every single employee above $15 an hour in terms of wage. That being able to ensure that everybody comes in and is paid a wage that is livable is a really critical component to not only keeping your employees happier, but also ensuring that they're going to want to stick with you as a company. This company or this fund has seen incredible growth in their companies, even during a period where really we're There's a lot of discussion about the great resignation post-COVID. All of their companies were able to maintain their employees, not have to lay folks off during that period, and also continue to support them. We have another fund that is basically using this data to wrap supports around their portfolio companies. So they have a real focus on creating quality jobs. And so they are very interested in when an employee has a challenge, what are the different supports that they can actually provide for the companies as well. So maybe they're seeing that they've got a lot of absenteeism because childcare that employees can access is inadequate. That's something that they can create supports around, or maybe folks are having trouble saving for the future, either through a 401k or those sorts of things. What supports can be provided to those employees at the company level? We also have a lot of our portfolio or our funds that have identified carbon reduction targets. So a lot of folks are aiming to be net zero by 2030 or 2040 in line with the Paris Accords. And my first question always on that is, that's great, 2030 in terms of a target. What are you doing today? And so that's really what we try to help people to do, is identify plans on how they're going to get to those long-term goals.
You are listening to the Alldus podcast. When you're looking to scale your team, or if you are interested in showcasing your company in a future episode, reach out today. Or if you're in the market for a new role, visit our website to view open positions, www.alldus.com.
Kelly, back to yourself now. I'd love to understand what the current makeup of your broader technology team is, with a focus on the use of AI. You talked about it in your introduction, saying that AI has played a huge factor in helping you get to where you are today. Obviously, Tablecloth is now coming up on 5 years in business this fall. So it'd be good to understand what the current makeup of the broader technology team is, and then what aspects of AI are in use on a daily basis.
Sure. If you looked at our team, you'd see that it was pretty atypical. We tend to let the tools bring people who have some subject matter expertise into being more technical in nature. So what I mean by that is we're not hiring as many engineers for the entire staff, and instead we're hiring more people who are research or subject matter expert related. And then the technology helps those people become more like a data scientist or become more like an engineer by being able to use these tools. So our core philosophy when we started this company was that we wanted to bring people with expertise, bring people like Nelli into the company who had a lot to offer in terms of helping companies along that path toward change. And trying to, with engineering, create a kind of engineer-free zone where people can get really good at the technical skills. They don't have to come in with those really good technical skills. We can teach them. And as long as they come in with a lot of good subject matter expertise or good personal background, things like that, then we knew that the combination of both would, in fact, produce a good result for the end product and end user. So we actually have a pretty low ratio when it comes to engineers versus total employees. I think companies usually our size are about half engineers. We're about a quarter. We leverage tools for both the data science modeling and data model creation and publishing side of the business. Then we also try to use data science and artificial intelligence, or machine learning really, to take data as it's coming in and find problem areas. So for example, if we know a company has a history of reporting an average wage of X, and then in 1 month we see that jump by 20%, the software identifies that and lets people know ahead of time, hey, we think there might be something wrong with what you just passed us. So there's good little interesting hacks that are being done on a daily basis as we learn more and more about the market. Nelli mentioned earlier, this is a burgeoning market, right? There's a lot of companies don't really know, they don't have this function internally, they don't have an ESG specialist internally. So they're looking for us to create opportunities for them. And the more and more we pull more companies in and have a more diverse data set to look at, the more interesting the engineering challenge becomes. So we're actually on the hire now. We haven't always in the past hired a lot of engineers, but now we're seeing that our big data set and our sort of leader status in this space means that we're actually now really ready to start building some pretty interesting technology solutions to the patterns that we're seeing on the market.
Thank you for that, Kelly. And that's something I absolutely want to talk to you about before we wrap up. But going back to Nelli, from what Kelly's just said there, you guys are leaders in this field, and there's some real clear, obvious value adds in the near term. A lot of what you talked about was helping companies have more visibility around driving their positive mission. When you look at the success you've already had today, and now looking at the roadmap over the next 1 to 2 years, what are some of the things you're working towards? What do you see as some of the future use cases for the platform, and what are you particularly excited about to roll out for your customers and as you grow the overall use of the platform?
Yeah, so I can answer some of those. We are actually very excited about our next year or two. We've done a lot of planning around it because we have spent the last 5 years building the tools with our customers and really hearing from them at every step. So a couple of the things I'm most excited about. One is we've created what we would call kind of our base ESG product, which is a very automated process where folks can upload their information and immediately get data turned back to them so that they can at least have a starting point. We also are seeing more and more need from different levels in kind of the capital stack. So we work a lot with general partners, which are private equity and venture capital funds. But the people above them, who are really the asset allocators, are also looking to be able to compare the different places that they are placing their money. So this is pension funds and foundations and others that want endowments at universities that want to make sure they're putting their money into things that are not negatively affecting the populations or the issues that they care about. And so being able to roll that data up is also something that we're very interested in. I think Kelly mentioned the size of our data set at this point is getting to be not only large from what we're seeing out in the field, but also longest tenure. So we're able to look at 3-4 years back of data for a lot of our companies, which helps us to see those broader trends, to focus on benchmarking and really getting to that scale where we can start applying some of those insights. So for example, we've mentioned like gender pay equity. We're seeing that in probably 80 to 90% of the companies that we're working with, that they have a real wage gap there. And so we also want to be tracking what they're doing to address that and to help people to get to solutions more quickly as a result of the data that we're getting about what is actually working to make change in organizations. So those are some of the things I'm most excited about at this point.
Kelly, I want to talk a bit more now about what you said. You touched on the fact that your efficiency in use of your engineering team has allowed you to keep the overall headcount down, but still produce quality product and maintain growth. But you now are at the point where you're going to need to add more heads to support new features and the growing customer base. When you're speaking to candidates across the technology team, whether it's on the analytics side, straight up data engineers, when you're talking to them about the work at Tablecloth, the environment, the culture, what are some of the things you tell them to get them excited about this opportunity over some of the other great opportunities available to them in the marketplace right now?
Yeah, and obviously for engineers, it's a real, I guess, seller's market, right? They're just be sought after in so many different ways in so many different companies. For us, the way that we're differentiating ourselves is that our heads and our hearts are in the same exact place. There's never going to be a day where you show up to work and you feel guilty about what you're producing. There's never going to be a day where you don't enjoy your colleagues and you're genuinely seeing change happen as a result of your work. So it's a bit of a, I guess, ace in the hole for us because it's something that's very attractive to a lot of good developers. And the ones who really believe in the kind of mission-oriented business tend to gravitate toward us. Diversity, equity, inclusion is a big deal in the marketplace. It's something that we take pride in analyzing, and we practice that here too. So we oftentimes will hire engineers regardless of what their academic background is. I don't care if you have a college degree. What I want to see is that you're a good person and that you're doing good work. and that you're as committed in your personal life to change as we are as well. So it's those kinds of, I guess you could say, soft skills or intangibles and things like that we're looking to make a good match on. And we're confident that the engineering tasks that we put forward to you are solvable problems that we can work on together.
So Nelli, final question for you before we wrap up with Kelly. As the CEO, you work with a lot of other founders and private equity and VCs, and you talk about the evolution of tech. And a big part of Tablecloth's mission is to help these companies have better use of their own data. When you look at the next 2 or 3 years for the future of the industry as a whole, what are some of the things that you're looking forward to most when you work with the VCs, and how Tablecloth can help them achieve some improvements in their use of data?
Yeah, so I think one of the things I think about for the next couple of years is that ESG is not going anywhere. Folks are going to need to be paying attention to their footprint on the planet, how they treat people, those sorts of things. And this is a way to have data support and drive those decisions for organizations. I think the other thing I'm seeing a lot in the field is that there is a big push towards standardization and reporting around this. All of that is great, and I think really important for the maturation of the field and to be able to compare apples to apples. And it also will never be enough. So there is this level of customization necessary for companies based on who they are, what they do. I look at a healthcare tech company really differently than I look at a company that's doing agricultural products or those sorts of things. Making sure that we provide information that helps people to make better decisions on how to make sustainable and long-lasting companies that are good for the world.
Kelly, final question is for you, staying on the topic of the opportunity at Tablecloth for engineers and scientists to come and join you. Where do you see the growth over the next year to 2 years in personnel, and what opportunities are there going to be? What roles are you going to need to hire for?
Sure. So today we're still quite a small company. So we're looking for people who are generalists and are willing to grow with the team. So full stack developers and data engineers. As we grow as a company, we're going to find that the need to have people who are more specialized somewhere in the stack is going to get greater. So automation engineers, perhaps people who are working just on the back end, just on the front end, design work, things like that. The trajectory of the company is a high growth one. So we also need team leaders. We need people who've been there, who've been down the path of growth with other companies and can really align a team and organize it and make it shine.
Nelli, Kelly, very much appreciate you both coming on and talking to us today. Great to learn about the origin story behind Tablecloth and the mission-focused impact that it's having for your portfolio companies and just how many organizations it's touching. And given you guys are leaders in this new emerging field, I'm sure it will only continue to grow and grow, helping more companies have a positive impact on their mission. But we wish you, the team, and everyone at Tablecloth the best of luck in the months and years to come. Thank you so much.
Thanks, JP. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.